In this video, we are going to have a short tutorial on microscope, the parts and function of microscope, the types of microscopes, and also the classification methods of microscopes. Don't forget to subscribe and like and share the video after watching so that you can receive every update from this channel. So let's get started. So microscopes are basically instruments that are used for visualizing microscopic objects or anything which cannot be seen with an unaided eye. Microscope is used for visualization of such objects. Microscopes comes with different types, and different classification schemes are used for categorizing the types of microscopes. We can classify microscopes based on how many lenses it uses. Some microscope uses two lenses, one for viewing and one directed to the object. So we have two main types in that category. We have a simple microscope and a compound microscope. So a simple microscope uses just a one lens system. So here, this is a typical simple microscope. It just uses one lens system for magnifying an object on the stage. Compound microscopes uses two lenses, one called the eyepiece lens, which is used for the vision, and one called the objective lens. So here there is two magnifications. The objective lens first magnifies the object from the stage. Then the eyepiece lens further magnifies the image of the objective lens. So compound microscopes uses two lens systems, whereas simple microscope uses just one lens system. We can also classify microscope based on the number of the eyepiece lenses. We can have a binocular microscope that uses two ocular lenses. So here's a binocular microscope. It uses two different lenses or eyepiece lenses. And also a monocular microscope like this that uses one lens or one eyepiece lens. So this is a typical monocular microscope, and this is a binocular microscope. Based on the type of radiation that is used for the magnification of the object on the stage, we can have light microscopes and also electron microscope. So light microscopes uses light to magnify the object on the stage, whereas electron microscope uses a high energy electron to magnify the object on the stage. So this is a typical light microscope that uses light here to illuminate or to magnify the object, and it is being viewed in the eyepiece lens. Electron microscopes like this is a typical structure of an electron microscope. Uses electron for the magnification of the object from the stage. We can also classify microscopes based on how the image is seen in the field. Don't forget, the field is the region of vision through the eyepiece lens. So when you look through the eyepiece lens, the area you see is what you call the field. So how the field is seen can also be used to categorize microscopes. We can have a bright field microscopes. We can have a dark field microscopes. We can have a fluorescence microscope and also a phase contrast microscope. All these categories are based on how the field is seen or the image is seen on the field. So 4 categories here based on how the number of the eyepiece lenses or the ocular lenses. We can have a monocular microscope and a binocular microscope. Based on how the image is seen in the field, we can have 4 categories here. You can have a bright field microscope, a dark field microscope, a phase contrast microscope, and a fluorescence microscope. Based on the type of radiations which we use for vision or visualizing or magnifying the object on the stage, we can have an electron microscope, and a light microscope. And also based on the number of lensing systems, you can have a simple microscope and a compound microscope. So a compound microscope is basically the microscope that uses two lensing systems. The first lens is the objective lens that magnifies the object from the stage, and the image which is seen here is further magnified by the eyepiece lens. So these are the categories and the methods for classifying microscopes. Now let's get to the part of the microscope and further we look at the functions of the part. So here, this one is a typical binocular microscope. It uses two ocular lenses. A light microscope because it uses light. Um, a compound microscope because it uses two different lensing systems. So let's look at the part of the microscope. As seen here, the first part of the microscope is the ocular lens or the eyepiece lens. We also have the head of the microscope. We have the diopter adjuster. We have the arm or the frame of the microscope. We have the aperture of the microscope. We have the stage controls here. These are the stage controls. We have the coarse adjustment. We have the fine adjustment. We have brightness adjustment. We have the base of the microscope. We have the light switch. We have the illumination of the light source. We have the condenser or the diaphragm or the condenser together with the diaphragm down here. We have the stage or the mechanical stage. We have the stage clip and also the objective lenses. So let's look at the functions of the various parts of the microscope. Very similar to a typical simple microscope, we have an eyepiece or the ocular, we have an arm, we have a nose piece, an objective lens, we have stage, we have diaphragm, the condenser, we have the coarse adjustment, we have the fine adjustment, we have the light source and the base. These parts are basically common in almost all microscopes, but their position on the microscopes might differ. So now let's look at the parts of the microscopes and their functions. So let's start from here. So the eyepiece lens is the first lens that is viewed through after magnification. So it's the original or the lens for vision. So if you want to view something under the microscope, here is where you view the object or the image of the object from. Here is a typical binocular. So one eye here and the other eye here for vision or for visualizing the image from the stage. We have the head, of course, that holds the eyepiece lens or the ocular in position. We have the diopter adjuster. This one is just for adjusting the eyepiece. It can also aid in the removal of the eyepiece lens. We have the arm or the frame of the microscope. That is more of a rigid structure that connects the upper part of the microscope to the lower part of the microscope. We have the nose piece. This is the nose piece as in here. It is just a regulator that is used to position or to regulate which of the objective lenses are needed for the magnification of vision. We have also the objective lenses, the lens that first magnifies the object. So microscope is basically for magnification. So the first lens for magnification is the objective lens, and its image is further magnified by the eyepiece. It comes with different magnification scheme. We have that one that magnifies the image of the object 4 times. You can have 10 times, you can have 40 times, and 100 times. So it comes with different magnification strategies. We also have stage clip. The stage clip is basically used for holding the slide in position. The stage clip holds the slide in position, so it works together with the stage to hold the slide. The slide is where you put your specimen or the object for vision on. So the stage clip is used to hold the slide in position. We have a mechanical state, which is a rigid object, very rigid object that accommodate, or let's say here's where we put the stage, is where we put the slide on before it is being clipped by the stage clip. So the stage together with the clip work together to hold the slide in position. We have the condenser down here, the condenser and the diaphragm. They are together, they tend to control how much light passes through the object. So they are used for regulation of the amount of light that flows through the object and for vision. We have the illumination source, which is a source of light that is used to propagate light to view the image of the object. We have the light switch for switching the light on. We have the base, which is more of a rigid structure that settles and allows the upper part of the, or provide some kind of rigidity or stability to the microscope to prevent it from slipping off, because microscope must be worked in a very stable manner without any position or movement. So the base provides some kind of rigidity to the microscope as a whole. We have the brightness adjustment, of course, as the name implies. It is used to adjust the brightness of the light. So the intensity of the light that flows through here is first controlled by the brightness adjustment, and further controlled by the diaphragm and the condenser. We have the stage controls. Let's start from here. You have the stage controls, as in here. This is the stage control, as the name implies. It is used to control the stage, the larger one and the smaller one. The first one is used to move the stage back and forth like this. So the first one is used to move the stage back and forth upon rotation. When you rotate it, it will move the stage back and forth. That is the larger one, or the top one. Then the smaller one is used to move the stage left and right. So from here to here, from here to here is done by the smaller one. These are the stage controls. The larger one is to move it back and forth per how you position yourself to view. Back and forth is the larger one. Then the smaller one is used to move it left and right. So they are used to control the stage. They are mechanical and they move the stage either back and forth or sideways. We also have the adjustment, the coarse and the fine adjustment. So the coarse adjustment, they are all used for movement of the stage up and down. So the coarse adjustment is, and together with the fine, are all used to move the stage up and down. By the coarse adjustment moves the stage with a very high pressure, therefore it can move the stage fast. So this basically says the coarse adjustment is used for moving the stage up and down, but the fine adjustment also helps to move the stage up and down, but it aids more in focusing. It helps to focus the specimen at the right position for magnification, because it just moves the stage at a very low velocity or speed. So these are the parts or the functions of a microscope. Let's see. So as in here, this is a typical simple microscope system. The various parts are being explained there. So this is a lens. So this lensing system is what is inculcated in the objective and the eyepiece lenses, or the ocular lenses. So these are the summarized functions of the part of the microscope. So the coarse adjustment function, you can just read here to understand what we just explained. Also here the same thing, the part and the functions of the microscope well explained here. So a short practice example. Just be sincere with yourself. These are the parts, the labeled part of the microscope. This is a typical monocular light simple microscope. So, and these are the corresponding parts. So at the comment section, just drop your answer at the comment section. Just be sincere. Don't go back there to check your one. The one is what the answer is here. Just drop your answer at the comment section, and don't forget to like and subscribe after watching, so that, or share to your friends, so that you can receive every update from this channel. Thank you.